So welcome to episode 4 of the Body Smart Book Club. We'll dive right in again with 80-20 running. Having a lot of fun with this. This is a super fun read and super educational read. So definitely go check it out afterwards. Read through it. There's so much good to be gleaned. It's just really,
we don't even cover half of
no.
of it in these videos.
Honestly, not. And just really great training pearls and just really relevant and good advice looking into building a healthy and progressive training plan. So today we're going to dive a little bit deeper into 80-20 and talk about some other rules, some training pearls around that. It's the overarching goal, right, of training, right? Training in this way is going to be healthier. It's going to help us reach our goals that we're looking, right, very specific goals and reaching personal best, things like that. But it's not the only thing that we need to really maximize our success for training and for improving our runs, for improving our performance. And so there's a number of other rules that kind of go along with that really fine-tune that to make it the best for our bodies and to make it the best for us as individuals. And so we'll talk a little bit about how we want to structure and sequence our running and our training, as well as about how to make training progressive over that time while treating our bodies well and making sure that we have enough time for rest. And as always, right, the point that we talk about every single time, because it's super important, is to listen to our bodies.
Listen to your body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always. So 80-20, it's not the fine print, right?
Right.
Got to read the rules.
Right. It's not quite as simple as we've made it seem. It's not quite as simple as, okay, 80% of my runs at low intensity, 20% of my runs at high intensity, that's it. So we're going to share with you 7 additional rules to the 80-20 rule today.
Yes. Like numbers. And so just the first in that 80-20, instead of as a precise set point, we want to look at it more as a narrow range, a range where we can have success and we're listening to our bodies and appreciating the fact that for most runners, the 80-20 is kind of that sweet spot, right? That's going to balance their training in the proper way to put them towards their goals. But there's going to be some people that it ends up being a little bit more like 90-10 or a little closer to 70-30. But not getting wildly off that, right? Not 0 low intensity and 100% high intensity or 50-50, right? There's definitely some benefits that have been shown from polarizing that training more and emphasizing it more towards that 80%.
Right, and that's just going to take time as you practice and train and try different things. It's just going to take time for you to learn, okay, 80-20 is right for my body, or maybe 90-10 is better for my body. It's just going to take practice to find where your sweet spot is.
Yeah. And we also have to appreciate the different phases of training, right? From the idea that we have our base phase where we're building things up, our peak phase, right, where we're really into the training, into very specific things, and then the taper phase as we get right about to where we're at the race. And so, especially in that base phase, it's going to be even more geared towards that low intensity to really train us well and to give us a foundation to build everything else off of.
Right. So every training cycle starts with your base phase, which is typically 4 to 8 weeks, where you're going to spend 100% to 90% of your runs at low intensity, right? And then your peak phase, where you're really hitting on that 80-20%, and then your taper phase, where you're slowly coming off of the distance and mileage. So.
Yeah. We want to treat our bodies right.
Exactly.
And so that leads us to our next point is training in cycles. And this idea of cycles is going to come up throughout a number of other rules, but this is kind of like our big, right, our macro level cycle, and how we're doing our training as a whole. And so it's appreciating that we can't just keep running harder and harder and harder and harder forever. Our bodies have a stopping point, right? That point beyond which, if we train more, we're just going to hit a wall, right?
Right.
I know we were talking earlier, and you said like that was one of the things that kind of happened to you in some of your previous training, like noticing that and it being really hard.
Yeah. So my husband and I were training for a 100-mile run, which was canceled this year. Dang it! But we're still gonna try to maintain what we've gained, and we're gonna try to run it next year. But anyways, my husband and I were arguing between. We were following this hard, easy approach. So 2 hard weeks, and then we took an easy week where we almost cut our mileage in half and just took it really easy. And that was always my husband's favorite week. He's like, easy week.
Yes.
But I just got in this really intense mode. I was like, man, we're running 100 miles. Like, we got to take this seriously. And we kind of had this argument. I was like, maybe instead of a hard, easy approach, we should do a hard, harder, and then back to hard approach. So we never gave ourselves that recovery week. And after we went about 4 months with this program, hitting it really hard, and we both got injured. We're both suffering from chronic fatigue. It has not worked well for us.
not
that
fun,
recovery
right?
week is good. And since then, I've learned that you actually can't lose any fitness by taking that recovery week. The only way you lose fitness is if you go from running 50 miles a week to doing nothing but sitting on the couch all day. But if you're running 50 miles a week on average and you take 1 or 2 weeks off and cut that in half, you're not going to lose any fitness. It's important to give yourself that rest.
Yeah, we all need that buffer, and so it's gonna vary person to person, right? And depending on what you're training for, right? 5K versus half marathon, ultra, et cetera. But really the maximum they found is about 24 weeks, right? After that, there needs to be a definite like recovery period, right? At least of a couple weeks. And then going back to hitting that training again. Depending on fitness and race level, it's going to vary, right? So say maybe you have 5K and you are really fit and it's fine, right? Maybe you only need like 6 weeks of training for that, versus it's you're going for your first marathon and you just have not been in as good shape as you might like to be, right? Yeah, that's a thing, and that's probably going to trend more towards the 24 weeks, and I would say anyway, just trending towards that higher time of training, right? That longer period, just to deal with any potential setbacks, injuries, things like that. The idea that is if we're training in this 80-20 style, along with these other rules that we're talking about, that we're hopefully reducing injury risk and giving the body time to heal and to recovery. And so we're not dealing with setbacks, but I think just putting a little bit of buffer time in there to appreciate that potential is really good.
Exactly. And after each recuperating phase, when you go back into the next cycle, you're starting each new cycle at a new higher level of fitness, which is how you'll keep progressing and improving.
Yeah, which is nice, right? Step after step.
Exactly. So. Which takes us to our next step, which is
hey, nice. Good segues, right?
Which is running more and taking baby steps.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. And that's the thing. So the nice thing about running is you can always do more, you can always do less, right? Like it's a very easy to change, to change that volume over time. But in changing volume, right, we want to respect our bodies, and we want to respect that it takes time to develop the changes that happen from running and increasing our aerobic capacity and increasing things like mileage. And just, again, it goes back to what we talk about all the time, right? Listen to your body. Don't, I think it's really easy to get into the mindset like, okay, right, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to be the best runner ever. I'm going to run all of the miles all the time.
Run 10 marathons this year.
Yeah, it's like
I've never done a 5K before,
but I am intense. And gosh darn it, I'm going to do this. And so that just ends up really hurting people. And so I think just choosing realistic goals and giving your body time to make those changes, with the idea of that I'm going to run more and I'm going to increase this and work towards that like peak level of fitness, which frustratingly, I guess, but also in a good way, right? It can take years to accomplish. It's not just I'm going to get fit right away. Our bodies need time to learn and to adapt, and when we treat them well and when they give them time to adapt, then it works out better for us in the end, and we're constantly working towards better fitness.
Right. So just respect your body, respect what it's telling you, and honestly, every single day, you should wake up and and okay, what is my body telling me? Can I hit a hard 10 miles today, or is an easy 3 miles going to be better? Every single day, just respect that, and you'll know when you can run more, and you'll know when you need to back off. So just tune into that. That's so important.
Yep. So that's great. The next one, and this one is a really broad topic, and so we're going to go into in a little bit more detail in our next episode, but we'll just kind of go over the general parts of this rule. So make sure that you're doing tried and true workouts. So within this book, it goes over 12 different workouts ranging from low intensity, moderate intensity, high intensity that have been perfected and proven over decades of running, right? There's been a lot of different types of runs and a lot of different types of training that's been tried over the years, and some of it's been really successful, and that's what makes up these workouts, and some of it has been really unsuccessful and frankly probably stupid. And so again, the idea, right, is using the best of what we have, right? Combining what research shows us and what experience shows us, and melding those into the best type of training plan is really what we're going after, and really what this book goes after as well. And so let's start off. Let's go into why we want to do the easy runs, right? What's the purpose of those low intensity workouts?
As are you talking about with the tried and true workouts? Yeah. So in the tried and true workout, so like Mark said, there's 12 different workouts that we want to incorporate into our schedule, which is going to make our training program a lot more efficient and safe. Again, we'll go into all of those workouts in a different episode, but they're categorized into 3 different areas, right? The low intensity, moderate intensity, and high intensity. Mm-hmm. So the reason we do low intensity, those workouts are best for when you're in the base phase. So 4 to 8 weeks of just building up your aerobic base before we hit the peak phase where we're really training hard. That's where we do a lot of the low intensity runs. And then also we do low intensity runs in the peak phase when we go on our long runs. This is where we're going to get most of our mileage and 80% of our low intensity. So this is where we're going to be running most of the time. These are the workouts we're going to be doing. 80% of the time. And
really the foundation runs, right? Like that's the foundation of all of our training, and that's what is helping us to build that, not only building our aerobic base, but also building the mental fatigue capacity, right? Being able to just endure a constant activity over time, right? And so that's where that comes in, really important. That brings us to moderate. And moderate, that's really about our ability to sustain more aggressive speeds over time. Because none of us are going to be able to sustain a zone 5, right? At the top of our heart rate, at the top of our aerobic capacity for very long, right? Mm-hmm. And so we still need to build in that moderate zone, right, where we're going to be at a higher speed, more aggressive, but be able to do that over a longer period of time in a little bit lower heart rate zones. So really important for that. Also important for the fatigue resistance as well, because again, like, although going on those long runs, high volume at low intensity helps to build that, like, in a race, that's not going to be our whole time, right? There's going to be changes of intensity, right? Whether it's based on, whether going up or down hills or different things like that, right? So it's just about, building that mental resistance.
So we're ready for those, yeah.
Yes.
Cool story there. So when me and my husband are doing our training, we did our base phase, then we started the 80-20 and we incorporated more zone 3. And I talked about this in a little podcast we do, but we did this 26-mile run with 4,200 feet of climbing, and this was the first time I've ever been able to do hills. It was awesome because even though I was really tired, I could get to hill and I could still sprint up it, even after 20 miles of running, and I thought that was awesome. And that's what zone 3 does, is it gives you that power to run up those hills when you've been running for 15, 20, 30 miles already.
Right. And so, like, being able to add that into training is going to put you over other people who haven't incorporated that in their training, right? Who've just passed that by and are really like, no, I'm gonna hit it hard all the time, and I'm just gonna, right? Like, if you're bypassing any of these workouts, bypassing those phases, then you're really shortchanging yourself, and you're not getting the most benefit out of the workouts that you could.
It'll knock so much time off of race day,
which is what we want,
you can
right?
sprint up those hills,
It's one of the great ways to help improve our performance over time. So that puts us to the high intensity, right? Why are we doing those runs? And that really goes into building our aerobic capacity, right? Getting that peak level of fitness, upping our VO2 max so that we can get the oxygen to our muscles that we need and have power and endurance throughout the whole of the race.
Right, and you'll see zone 5 workouts mostly in like 5K, 10K kind of races. It's important to incorporate zone 5 no matter what kind of race you're preparing for, but you'll do them especially in the shorter races like a 5K or a 10K.
Definitely, yeah. When you're going to need to take advantage of that high intensity.
You have 30 seconds to sprint at the very end there.
You're going to win that 5K.
Exactly.
It's going to be awesome. And again, this is also useful, right, for changes in terrain, changes in elevation, right? Being able to handle those, which again, like if it's just all low intensity, it's gonna come back to bite you if you haven't done any of that higher intensity training,
right?
Because we need that, right? Again, we need all those types of training.
Plus bragging rights when you have an awesome VO2 max.
Yeah. yes. Oh, I know. It's always fun when patients come in and they test like superior, right? Like you can go brag to your friends. Tell your friends that you're superior, right?
Yeah.
So part of the fun of that. So we touched on it earlier, but the hard and easy principle, right? Designing on a week by week basis, and what we call microcycles of modulating our hard and our easy runs.
So this is how are you going to space out your hard and easy runs throughout the week? So an example of this would be, first of all, you never want 2 hard days next to each other. You always want your hard days to be separated by easy days. So in 7 days, the example that Matt gives us is you start with an easy day. So easy, hard, easy, hard, easy, hard. Right, so there's 7 days, you got your 3 hard days, and the rest of the days are easy days.
Which makes it nice. And I think it makes mentally, when you're preparing for that week, it makes it a lot less daunting, right? Because you're like, okay, I get breaks in here.
Only 3 days of hard. That's it.
Which makes it a lot easier. You're like, okay, I can hit it, right? Our minds are very goal oriented, and so when we have it, okay, I can do this and recognizing that we have that chance for breaks, I think it makes it a lot easier to train and a lot more exciting to approach that week.
Yeah, it is a lot more exciting. And just like my husband, it's an easy day. It's like, yes, easy day.
Right? I know. I must be like him because I'm lazy too with that. It's okay.
Yeah.
So the last, or not the last, the next, second to last, almost, the penultimate.
That's a big word.
So step cycles. So also known as mesocycles, that takes that hard, easy idea and it just breaks it up a little more or pulls it a little bit more macro. And these can be done in a number of different cycles. We can do 2-week cycles, 3-week cycles, 4-week cycles. For most people's training purposes, 3-week cycles are probably the best. And that's because, again, there's more recovery built into those periods.
Right. So that is standard, is a 3-week. And what that is it's a hard week, then an easy week. So that's a 3-week cycle. You have the 2-week cycle where it's a hard week, easy, or 4-week, hard, easy. And it just depends on what your goals are, what your level of fitness is, and again, what your body is telling you. Just as long as you get that recovery week in at least every, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. And again, that's why we like the 3-week way, is because it just does build in more time for recovery, hopefully reducing injury risk as well, which is nice, right? We always want to do that. But it's also allowing us to train progressively, right? So we're starting that first week hard and then harder if it's 2 week and then back down to easy. But always like hard, harder, harder, and then easy. So just giving us that progressive component, which we need to get better continually.
Right. So every time you get back onto a hard, it's harder than your last hard week.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So you're still at a different level of peak fitness.
Yeah.
Every time you go back to that hard week. So.
And then the last rule, which kind of is built into all of these rules, but is to train progressively. And there's a couple different ways to do that, right? One is just increasing overall training load, right? I ran, this many hours, or I ran this many miles one week. I'm upping it this week, which is important, right? We want to, in the foundation phase and then building up to the peak phase, right? We want to get our body ready for more and more and that progressive mileage to prepare us for whatever race length that we're doing. And then the second way, which is super important, is making our workouts more race specific over time. So again, like we talked about before, foundation phase is going to be a lot of those long runs at low intensity. And as we get more into the peak phase, it's going to be more race specific. What are you going to encounter in your type of race, right? 5K, half marathon, is there going to be more geared towards high intensity spurts like in the 5K, or are you going to need more of that moderate and that low intensity range in a marathon? And so just, building all that stuff in.
And things like, are you going to be on the road or are you going to be on the trail, and how much climbing is going to be in your race?
Yes,
if you're doing a race with a lot of climbing, you better be practicing with a lot of climbing, right?
Yeah. So those are the 7 rules.
And just to reiterate the rules, and if you're confused, you can go back and watch the video again.
Yeah.
So the 7 rules besides 80-20, we know the 80-20 rule. So the first one is you're going to follow 80-20 approximately. Second rule is you're going to train in cycles. We talked about the 24-week cycle, up to 24-week cycle. Third one is run more, take baby steps. The more you run, the better you're going to get. Fourth one is do tried and true workouts, which we'll talk about in our next episode. Rule 5 is obey the hard, easy principle. Rule 6 is practice step cycles. And Rule 7 is train progressively. Yeah,
so follow those 7 rules and you'll be well on your way to moving towards your best performance, reaching those goals in a way that you feel good, your body feels good, and you're treating your body well, you're listening to it, and you're able to reach those goals, you're able to hit those PRs and feel good while doing it, which is what we want. We're all about building fitness into to be a regular part of our lives, right? To make it so we can do whatever we want, whenever we want, and feel good while doing it, and live active, fulfilled lives, which fitness is a huge component of.
For sure. And we actually have a really cool running resource guide. It's just a list of a whole bunch of awesome resources for you guys. So if you comment below, if you just comment the word guide, we'll send that over to you.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, we love getting to do this today, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks.